Okay, we have our bowl game set. The playoffs are set. And the NFL is starting to wind down, but still wide open. Let's talk football. Okay, so 4 weeks left in the NFL.
Right.
A lot of teams still in it.
I could say the only team that's a lock right now is the LA Rams. They just locked up the NFC West this past Sunday with their win over Detroit.
Yeah, the Rams clinched the West, and New Orleans can clinch the South with a win over Tampa Bay. Because
Carolina, they've lost their last 4 games after starting off 6-2. Right now, they're sitting at 6-6, and they're 4 games behind in the NFC South division. And so, for the Saints, simply a victory against Tampa Bay this Sunday they will lock up a spot in the playoffs, and they will lock up the NFC South title for the 2nd year in a row.
looks like, let's see. So Washington keeps sliding. They just lost Colt McCoy. Alex Smith probably won't be playing again.
I mean, telling how his recovery is going to go. I mean, I always like to give players a benefit of a doubt, especially, players who have significant value as far as, their, position in the league and how things have been going in their career. Alex Smith has had a fairly decent career, and I like to give him the benefit of a doubt that he will come back better than ever, but we just got to see how his recovery goes. A big shout out to the New York Giants for upsetting the Chicago Bears this past Sunday in overtime. A big statement win for the New York Giants, and believe it or not, the New York Giants mathematically are in contention for the NFC East. Mathematically.
Oh, yeah, well,
though last place mathematically.
Prior to this past weekend, I mean, no teams were mathematically eliminated for the playoffs contention period. I mean, that's changed now. I mean, there's no way that Oakland can make it, but still.
They're still not mathematically out. Like, I'm just like, they're 2-10. Are you serious? I mean, with Oakland Raiders, I mean, in this scenario, the moral story is going to be there's a method to John Gruden's madness when it comes to the Oakland Raiders. I feel that he has a lot brewing when them Raiders move to Vegas next season. So,
yeah. Let's see, where was it going? So, do you think Philadelphia can come back to win the division? I mean, they still got a matchup with Dallas, so that's going to be a key.
Well, 4 games left in the season. They're only 1 game behind Dallas.
Yeah, they're 1 game back.
So I do feel that Philly can come back and win the division, but it's going to take some help from the Cowboys. And not only that, the first time that they did meet up, the Cowboys did defeat the Eagles. And so if the Eagles want to come back and win the division, 1, they got to win out. 2, when they go to Dallas, they got to knock off the Cowboys. They have to. No choice.
And now, okay, so what do you think about the Seattle Seahawks and their current charge?
It's surprising me. I mean, they did start off struggling, like people had expected them to struggle, but their recent charges, it's something that Pete Carroll's doing. And the Seahawks have impressed me. They got a running game. Russell Wilson's been playing some good football. Defense been stepping up. Just all around, the Seahawks have been charging. They're not going to win the NFC West. I mean, of course, the Rams locked it up. But I've been very impressed with the Seattle Seahawks. And I feel that teams in the NFC, they can be a team that's going to make some noise.
Okay, so we got that. Now we also have 2 teams that are in contention for a wild card, but also can still be a player in their divisions, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers and the Baltimore Ravens.
The Los Angeles Chargers made a huge statement this past Sunday after a come-from-behind victory. They were down by as much as 16 against the Steelers in Heinz Field, and they came back and won 33-30. Just shows the heart and grit of that Chargers team, and just go to show how well they've been doing all season.
Well, And not just that, but Baltimore, they've looked like almost a completely different team with Lamar Jackson at quarterback.
It's just like the offense runs a lot better behind Lamar Jackson. And it just goes to show, well, can this be a sign of the Ravens pushing Joe Flacco out the door?
That's kind of what I was going to ask next. Do you think Joe Flacco could be on his way out of Baltimore? I think yes.
I think so as well, because they also have RG3 back there as well. So I mean, you got two dual threats. You got Lamar Jackson. You got RG3, and so you got two dual threat quarterbacks. So if something happened to Lamar Jackson, you could put RG3 in there. Well, I mean, there's no telling on how he's going to do, but I mean, I do feel that Joe Flacco will get pushed out the door by the end of the season if Lamar Jackson keep playing the way that he's playing, because right now he's 3-0 as an NFL starter.
So now with Kareem Hunt out, and we won't talk about that.
Why not? All right, sorry.
I mean, most people know by now that he was recently let go by Kansas City for essentially picking a fight with a woman.
Well, to potential NFL players out there, listen to me good. If you have a scandalous video out there and TMZ gets a hold of it, that's the end of your career. Just saying.
Kareem Hunt's probably not going to play again.
He's going to play again. I guarantee you he's going to play again. I mean, someone's going to pick him up.
I don't know. I mean, because Ray Rice never played again.
You want to know the owner that's gutsy enough, that's probably gutsy enough to try and pick him up?
Jerry Jones.
Yeah, exactly. You have some owners out there, they will go ahead and do it. I mean, look at Reuben Foster, who's had numerous domestic violence incidents. Yeah, though his ex-girlfriend recanted her story, I mean, the Redskins picked him up after the Niners released him due to his recent troubles. I mean, so there could be some hope for Kareem Hunt. I mean, I hope so. Kareem Hunt is an extraordinary running back, and he came on the scene last year and just wrecked shop in the AFC.
Trust me, I know. Even Kareem Hunt said that Kansas City did the right thing.
Honestly, here's how I feel about the situation. I feel that the type of player that Kareem Hunt is, he is vital to that Chiefs offense, especially, I mean, pretty much their run game. I mean, he was a major part of their offense last season when Alex Smith was the starting quarterback. It opened up a lot more to where he didn't have to provide as much impact with Patrick Mahomes behind center. But I feel that due to the caliber player that he is and due to the potential that he has, I feel that the Chiefs should have at least, suspended him. Instead of releasing him, I feel they should have probably given him like a hefty suspension, like probably suspended for the rest of the season, go through, anger management classes, because he's young. And so he still has maturing to do. This is only his second season in the league. And I feel that as far as off the field, he's still trying to get used to things as far as life in the NFL and dealing with adversity. And so I feel that a fair punishment would be 1, a hefty fine, 2, a hefty suspension, not releasing the guy. Because you just pretty much throw him into the wolves and you pretty much just lowered his chances of maybe finding another team.
Well, it's kind of one of those touchy subjects that everyone has their own opinion on. So
we're not going to talk about it because, I mean, just if we say one thing wrong, next thing you know, people are going to be all offended. You know how today's generation is.
Right. That's why I said I don't want to.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it. Moving on.
All right. So what I was going with that. So the Kareem Hunt's not with the Chiefs anymore. So now they're kind of out there looking for running back. Who do you think is going to have a grab for the number 1 seed? Because I feel like the Chiefs can lose again, and
they can.
Houston's coming on strong.
It's going to be a toss-up between the Chiefs, Chargers, and Texans. Texans, they've won 9 straight, and they show no signs of slowing down. This Texans team, I can see them as a potential, as an actual contender in the AFC. I would not be surprised if they go on to Atlanta to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. To be honest, just the way they've been playing.
They are definitely coming strong. I like Houston right now. Winners of 9 straight. Los Angeles is another team.
Another team that I feel is making a case. I wouldn't say as far as contending to represent the AFC, but as far as a team that can make some noise in the AFC wild card. And that team is the Denver Broncos, who have been winners of 3 straight. And those wins are consistent. They went to L.A., knocked off the Chargers. They knocked off the Steelers. And so this Broncos team is starting to really come together behind Case Keenum.
Which is surprising.
Kind of is because, I mean, Denver's been struggling all year. They've been really inconsistent. They were 3-6, and just now they just turned over a new leaf. So I would say look out for the Denver Broncos and make some noise in the AFC.
So we are starting to see some teams come to the rise right now. Indianapolis is still in it. So is Tennessee, but I don't see Tennessee pulling it off. Bengals have faded, losers of 4 straight. But to me it looks like Los Angeles Chargers. They got a 2-game lead in the wild card with 4 games left, and then like a 3-game lead over everyone else. So they're more than likely going to get in at this point.
I mean, you look at Cincinnati. It's safe to say they're still suffering from that Bourbon Street hangover, if you know what I mean, huh?
But Ravens, I think, will be the other team to make it. But at the same time, they're still in the.
They're still in the running for the AFC North.
Yeah, I mean, they're half a game back.
And I mean, though they're done with the season series with the Steelers, I mean, they split the series this season. I mean, all it takes is maybe 1 loss from the Steelers,
which is not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, after all, they do play the Saints
in the dome.
In the dome. So that speaking of NFC, I don't know. The wild card race in the AFC seems to be taking shape.
I gotta say, this has to be the tightest wild card race I've seen in recent memory.
The NFC wild card still remains to be a complete mess.
I mean, teams that are making a case for themselves in a wild card are, well, I'll say teams like the Cowboys, of course, who have been winners of 4 straight. Teams like the Eagles, who had a big Monday night victory last night. Teams like the Seahawks, who have been surging as of late. And teams that are fading, like Carolina Panthers, they're losers of 4 straight.
Yeah, Carolina has lost 4 straight. That was surprising, especially seeing how they were 6-2 at one point, and people thought that the NFC South division was going to come down to the final 3 weeks when the Saints and Panthers meet twice in
3 games.
3 games, yeah. But they've lost 4 straight. People want to blame it on Cam Newton. It's beyond Cam Newton at this point.
It really is. It's just they just been out of sync lately on all sides of the ball. I mean, Cam Newton played his performance this past Sunday in Tampa was not his best. I mean, he threw 4 picks, and 3 of them went to the same DB. And it's just the offensive line, they've been struggling to keep him protected. Jason Pierre-Paul has been wreaking havoc in that backfield for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, Buccaneers have been more competitive as of late.
But Tampa, when them Saints come Sunday, we ain't gonna have no more talks about that week 1. No more talks.
Revenge game for New Orleans there.
Oh, yeah. And what interests me is that John Kuhn, former Saints fullback, posted on Twitter about when the Saints lost to the Cowboys. And he was talking about how everybody thought that the Cowboys just came up with the perfect blueprint to knock off the New Orleans Saints.
That game was ugly.
It was. But, I mean, don't nobody know how to knock off the Saints any better than Sean Payton. Look for the Saints to be more well-prepared from here on out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that game's in the past, so, I mean, it was not like the Cowboys came out and dominated that game.
And what I'm going to say, and I don't care how y'all feel about it, I mean, I will stick by this, but I don't feel the Saints were were playing at 100% that game.
No, they were sleepwalking out there.
They were. So if you think that the Cowboys just came up with the so perfect game plan to knock off the Saints, no, the Saints slept.
No, just look at the stats. I mean, they outgained the Saints. They dominated the time of possession. and yet they only had 13 points to show for it, all in the first half. Prescott gets sacked 7 times. You turn the ball over at least 4 times.
And so
Double-digit penalties. It was far from a epic, dominant performance by
because if
a better team.
Because if the Cowboys come up with a perfect blueprint to beat the Saints, the Cowboys will put up at least 35, 38 points in that one. So, I mean, the Cowboys, if you're saying that it was a perfect blueprint, how come the Cowboys only scored 13 points and they gave up 7 sacks? And Dak Prescott was running for his life pretty much the whole game. And Ezekiel Elliott, though he had his little spurts as far as running the ball, he was mainly shut down for the most part.
Yeah, they still held him under 100 rush yards, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, it was an ugly game all around. Saints were obviously off. Even Drew Brees was off, and that says a lot.
And Drew Brees, I mean, the throws he made are throws like the throws that he did, like throws that he missed, are throws that I've never seen him miss. And so it was just basically for the Saints to sleepwalk like that and still come close to a victory like that and to still play remarkable defense the way they played against the Dallas Cowboys. Just imagine if they are at their very best, if they're playing at 100%.
Right.
So go ahead and look at that film if y'all want to and try and study like, oh, look at all these holes in the Saints game. They've got exposed. No, the Saints were just asleep that game. I mean, you can say what you want.
So we got next week. To me, the big matchup next week is Los Angeles Rams at Soldier Field.
My question is Mitchell Trubisky coming back?
Oh, that is a good question. I forgot that he was out. That would be a factor. A
huge factor. I mean, not trying to take anything away from Chase Daniel. I mean, he's been playing good football for the past couple of weeks. But I feel that the Bears will have that extra edge if Mitchell Trubisky is in. Just due to the fact that he runs the offense a lot better and, he's more acclimated to the system as far as, his experience out there with that Bears offense under that system than Chase Daniel.
Let's see. You have the Colts. They're going to be at Houston.
That's going to be a pretty big game.
Ravens are at Kansas City. Yeah, and then Rams are at the Bears. There you go. Eagles at Cowboys.
And also Vikings at Seahawks. I mean, this is a game that the Vikings are going to need. I mean, they lost to New England this past Sunday. If the Vikings want a chance to stay in the race for the wild card, they got to go to Seattle in front of the 12th man and knock off the Seahawks. And the Seahawks, they've been surging as of late. So
now that I think about it, I think Trubisky was in question for the Rams game.
I mean, having him out there, will give the Bears a little extra edge. I mean, this is going to be the first legitimate defense that the Rams are going to meet. I mean, Chicago, they've been notorious for their defense all season long.
Well, Chicago's always just kind of known for their defense.
And also with the NFC East, we got a key NFC East matchup: Eagles at Cowboys. Pretty much, the winner is going to take over the NFC East.
Yeah, if Dallas wins, I'll give them a 2-game lead with 3 left, and if the Eagles win, they'll pull even.
So an Eagles victory, they won't have as much pressure on them. But if they lose, all the pressure is going to be on them. Their back's going to be against the wall because the Cowboys, they've won 4 straight, and they're just licking their chops right now after beating the Saints.
Okay, let's talk bowls. I like to talk bowls.
Let's go bowling.
So, okay, Notre Dame versus Clemson.
That's gonna be a tough one. I mean, Trevor. Here's how I see the game going. I really honestly feel that the national championship game this season is going to be another rematch between Bama and Clemson. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning to.
Because Notre Dame, they're a good team. They've been playing some really good football behind Ian Book. They have a pretty good defense. They got a remarkable run game, but they're going against a really tough Clemson team who loves to throw the ball with Trevor Lawrence. They got a remarkable running back in Etienne. They have that suffocating defense that everybody loves talking about.
Okay.
I see Notre Dame putting up a fight, but I do see Clemson really getting a feel for the Notre Dame defense, and Trevor Lawrence starts opening up a lot more.
Well, the way I feel about it is I feel that Clemson and Notre Dame are a little closer to being evenly matched as opposed to Alabama and Oklahoma, which, I mean, offensively, yes, Oklahoma is right up there with Alabama.
Defensively,
no. Hell no.
not a chance. Here's how I feel it's going to go. Oklahoma's going. They're going to get their licks in.
They're going to score some points.
They're going to score some points. You got Kyler Murray, who is in my book. Kyler Murray is the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. I mean, he's been healthy all season, and you look at the guy. He's probably one of the fastest quarterbacks I've ever seen since maybe Michael Vick.
I did the number crunches, and I mean, Oklahoma's defense on the season is averaging about 31 points a game, and with like a whopping 43 their last 5.
I mean, you look at Oklahoma. I mean, of course they're going to get their scores in, but what happens if
they're allowing that many points?
But I'm just saying, what happens if like your offense can't score and your defense has to go out there and pick up the slack? You gotta go against Tua Tagovailoa, and say if he's not healthy, Jalen Hurts showed he still got it, and Jalen Hurts showed that he can lead that team to a title. Even though he's a backup, he can still lead that team to a title if he has to.
Yeah. I just look at Oklahoma's schedule, and you can't point to anybody on that schedule that came anywhere near the top 20 in defense, much less the top 10, which, I mean, Alabama ranks in the top 5 statistically in every category imaginable.
On both sides of the ball.
Both sides of the ball. I mean, this is a very, very good Bama team. And I'm not defending Alabama. I can't stand Bama.
I mean, either. But you look at this Oklahoma team, I mean, all right. Though some people say Ohio State should have been in, I feel that the committee made the right decision by putting Oklahoma in. They had a better resume. I mean, because what killed Ohio State was the simple fact that they got blown out by Purdue, and that they struggled with Nebraska, and they struggled with
Maryland. Give it 51 to them.
And they had to go in overtime. You look at Oklahoma, their only loss was against a ranked team, Texas, who they happened to defeat for the Big 12 title.
Well, I don't think it mattered whether they put Oklahoma or Ohio State in. I don't see either of those teams getting past Bama. Now, am I saying Alabama's unbeatable? No, of course not. There is a chance. There's always a chance that it can come out flat and just lose it. But I just don't see where.
I just feel that with Oklahoma, their problem is going to be durability against this Alabama team, because Alabama is a true 60-minute team. So you can get your licks in all you want, but what's going to happen when you get down to the final 15 minutes? What's going to happen when the fours go up? And what's going to happen when you get down to the wire, to the final 5, to the final 6, or to the final 3 or 2 minutes, when you got to dig deep for every single inch in your heart to go against this Alabama team? I don't think Oklahoma has it.
I don't.
Oklahoma's a good team in their own right, and I have a lot of respect for Lincoln Riley. He's done a great job for that team, taking over for Stoops after he retired. But I just don't see Oklahoma having the durability to knock off this amazing Alabama team.
Okay, we're just going through some of these. North Texas at Utah State. Honestly, I don't know much about Utah State this year. I mean, was not exactly following them, but I do know North Texas knocked off
Arkansas
44-17, and also had that touchdown on the kick return where the guy just walks it past several defenders before taking off, because Arkansas didn't pay attention for some reason.
Also, the All Nation Cure Bowl is pretty much the Irony Bowl. You got Louisiana. You got an in-state rivalry meeting up in Florida. I call it the Weird Bowl.
Tulane versus UL Lafayette. Yeah.
Well, UL Lafayette actually put up a good fight in the Sun Belt Championship game against Appalachian State. Appalachian State will actually be playing in the New Orleans Bowl coming up.
Yeah. The fact you have 2 Louisiana teams going at it in Florida is a bit ironic. All right. Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl, Fresno State versus Arizona State. I'm impressed with the job that Herm Edwards has done in his first year at ASU.
I'm actually very impressed with what Fresno State has done this season. behind McMarion as their quarterback. You know, McMarion used to be an Oregon State quarterback, and he went to Fresno State, just completely wrecked shop out there in his conference. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty good game. It's going to be close.
All right, Raycom Media McKellar Bowl. Georgia Southern versus Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan is another one I didn't pay attention to, but
now Georgia Southern, that's where the run game reigns supreme.
I'm impressed that Georgia Southern has been able to break into the bowl games this quickly. I mean, they were just fresh into the Division I football.
I feel what put them on the map was when they defeated Florida without throwing for a single passing yard, and they rushed for over 400 yards on the ground.
That was epic. That
was just, oh, okay.
And, yeah. Oh, boy. Middle Tennessee versus Appalachian State, the R&L Carrier Bowl, New Orleans Bowl.
How about let's take a look at the Boca Raton Bowl out there in Boca Raton, Florida. UAB. And now, if you remember, UAB had their football program shut down 4 years ago. This is their football program's their second season back.
Yeah.
And they already are in a bowl game. UAB has been playing very impressive this season. Now, I think they won. They did win their conference. They won the Conference USA Championship this past weekend.
They did.
And so it's just quick work. I mean, it's safe to say that the Blazers truly made up for missed time.
And it's against Northern Illinois, which is another small team that has been making noise lately.
I'm just saying, in the future, don't sleep on them group of 5 teams. Not a smart thing to do. Just ask Nebraska. Ask LSU.
San Diego State versus Ohio. The Frisco Bowl?
Frisco Bowl.
Frisco. Well, I mean, I pronounced it the Spanish pronunciation. I think I'm close enough.
You're close enough. You'll find. I'll let you slide for now.
Not too familiar with either of those teams. So I guess Marshall versus South Florida. Can we say points?
Lots of them.
I mean,
defense will not be a factor in this one because neither team has a defense.
No, South Florida. Shootouts galore. It should be a pretty high scoring ball. That's going to be huge. All right, Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl, Florida International versus Toledo. Or again, points.
Yeah.
Now, this is an interesting matchup. Western Michigan versus BYU, the famous Idaho Potatoes Bowl. Again, points.
Oh, how about this? The Jared Birmingham Bowl, Memphis and Wake Forest. Once again, points.
More points.
The Armed Forces Bowl, Houston going against Army. Ed Oliver, who is one of the top prospects in the upcoming NFL draft, will be sitting out this game. So with that being said, points. Because Army...
Army did hang with Oklahoma and held them to 28 points.
Oh, did it? Oh, don't forget, they took Oklahoma to overtime.
Yeah, overtime against the Sooners.
You're looking at an Army team who barely throws the ball and likes to run it down your throat.
So, I mean...
literally.
Yeah, offense may rule the day, but Army can play some defense. So.
Yeah, speaking of bowl games, Dow General needs to start paying their employees a lot more because for you to have a bowl game named after you, you must have a whole lot of money. The Dollar General Bowl, Buffalo and Troy.
Now here we go. The Sophie Hawaii Bowl, Louisiana Tech versus Hawaii. I like that matchup.
I actually do. I mean, you got two very talented teams. Hawaii started the season off really strong. La Tech, they got a pretty good offense. I mean, they were able to hang 21 on LSU.
Well, their defense is not too shabby either. They almost won. They almost won their conference as well. They got beat out in the final game. I forget who they lost to.
I believe it was UAB, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they lost was it conference championship or was it just a matchup?
It was just a match back because I think UAB, who did they beat for the conference? I think they beat Southern Miss.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, they just lost. Louisiana Tech just lost out their conference to UAB, and it was they're a really good team. And I mean, they hung with LSU for a while, which was surprising.
It's kind of weird considering at the momentum that LSU had in that game.
So, I mean, Skip Holt has something going over there at La Tech. So.
I mean, he does come from good genetics. I mean, you know who his daddy is?
Yeah, Lou Holtz, I know.
Of course.
Mr. Notre Dame himself.
Lou Holtz. I kind of miss, seeing him on the sideline.
Okay, First Responders Bowl, Boston College versus Boise State. Now, both these teams spent some time in the top 25 this year. What's your take on that?
I think it'll be a pretty good game, but I do feel Boise State's going to pull it out. I think Boise State can win that one. But, I mean, Boston College, they got a pretty good run game behind A.J. Dillon. I was hoping that they would beat Clemson. I was hoping for it, but they that was around the time Boston College was also plagued by injuries as well.
Yeah. Quick Lane Bowl, Minnesota versus Georgia Tech. This is Coach Johnson's last game at Georgia Tech.
I remember when Georgia Tech had Justin Thomas at quarterback, and they went to as far as I believe the Peach Bowl. I believe it was the Orange Bowl when they beat Mississippi State.
I think the Yellow Jackets would come out and then win this last game for Coach Johnson. That's just kind of.
I feel that would be a good way to carry him off.
California versus TCU. Lost dreams and lost hope.
TCU, I had a lot of expectations for coming into this season, and they just for the first few games they hung tough. They lost to Ohio State, of course.
They had a chance to take it to them and pull away there, but
it was after they lost to Ohio State. It was when they went downhill and they just started losing games. They lost to freaking Kansas this season. Why? They lost to Texas. They lost to Kansas. It was just TCU was never able to really get anything going, and it took a win against freaking Texas Tech to really get them in.
Yeah, California is also a team that I want to say they started 5-0 or 5-1, but as soon as they got ranked, it was just downhill.
I think you might be talking about Colorado.
Was it Colorado? Because
because Colorado started off 5-0, and they just hit an ultimate downhill spiral. I think they lost the rest of their games.
I know California was ranked at one point too. And then they got trashed by USC, which is not that great of a team this year.
Oh no, they struggled, but they are bringing in Cliff Kingsbury, former Texas Tech head coach, to be their offensive coordinator. So I feel that surrounding that young offense with a well-seasoned offensive mind like Kingsbury, I feel is going to take the Trojans to the next level. I wouldn't say overnight, but I do feel that something is brewing out there in California.
And then we have the Walk-Ons Independence Bowl, Temple versus Duke, and the feeling I get about that is just mediocrity.
What I see in Temple is a run game.
Yeah.
Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl, Baylor and Vanderbilt. How about that? Baylor's finally bowl eligible.
Well, they've been bowl eligible in the past,
I think they went winless last season, I believe.
Did they?
If I'm not mistaken, they were trashed. Baylor, they got in. It took a win against Texas Tech to get them in.
Yeah. Vanderbilt. So Coach Mason has seemed to turn things around. It looks like he was on the hot seat there to start the season, but
I was still kind of having him on the hot seat. Vanderbilt.
It's Vanderbilt.
Exactly.
They're going to be happy with just a bowl appearance.
I feel that a win in this bowl game, would give him more job security, and I feel that he won't be. If they get this win, he won't be on the hot seat going to next season.
And yes, it is Vanderbilt, but at the same time, if their defense could just play a little bit better, just think of the teams they had on the ropes this year. They were up 21 on Florida.
And they got a talented offense led by Kyle Shermer, and he's a very talented quarterback who I see having a future in the pros. It's just they have the pieces to be successful. They have the pieces to be able to compete with some of the better teams in the nation. It's just they just cannot pull it together.
Yeah, and it's not like Vanderbilt. It's not like it's impossible to be a top 25 team with Vanderbilt. James Franklin did it.
And look what James Franklin doing now with Penn State.
Yeah. Pinstripe Bowl, Miami versus Wisconsin.
It was just Miami. They kind of hit that LSU hangover. It was just like after they lost to LSU, it was just we couldn't see any consistency out of Miami.
And I'm a bit surprised to find Wisconsin bowl eligible because there was times this year that they were just straight up terrible.
It's just Wisconsin is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. They were supposed to be a big player in the Big Ten this year, and that just never materialized.
How about this? The Music City Bowl, Purdue and Auburn. That's an interesting matchup.
It is. I like Purdue in this one.
Really?
I mean, after all, they were able to. Depends on what Purdue team shows up. I mean, they were able to beat Ohio State. And
they were able to beat Iowa as well.
Iowa. I mean, they just missed out on the conference title, conference championship berths. I want to say
I think they were behind Northwestern.
They were just behind Northwestern, but I mean, Purdue was a good team this year. Better than I think most people expected them because I know they had a losing season recently. I want to say last year. I'm not sure. Auburn, I think. They were a bit of a letdown for most of the year.
I mean, they were able to find their stride later in the year until getting smacked by Alabama.
Yeah, that was Iron Bowl. Was more like a 10-penny bowl.
I mean, I got Auburn in that game. I say Auburn wins, and Gus Malzahn saves his job.
West Virginia versus Syracuse.
West Virginia, for the longest, they had a chance to compete for the Big 12, but it was losses against Iowa State and Oklahoma State that pretty much killed their chances.
West Virginia obviously has the edge on offense on this one, but I think Syracuse has a better defense, which West Virginia doesn't have one.
I mean,
the Big 12 was just not a place for defense this year. You know, I mean, especially we consider all the shootouts that happened in the second half when the teams started playing each other. I mean, Kansas lost to Nichols to open the season 26-23 and then hang 40 on Oklahoma.
That shocked me a lot. Like, how Kansas, you only put up 23 against, Nichols, but you want to put up 40 against Oklahoma. That just shows that how trashy Big 12 defense is. And I could just hear the SEC and the ACC say, "Look, Big 12, you got some really good offenses, but we're not going to take you seriously until you put some defense on the field."
Yeah, I know. Well, see, what happened there is because Big 12 defenses used to be really, really good.
True.
But then TCU and Baylor come along, and they develop offenses that can, put up 60, 70 points with no problem. And so the rest of the league had to adapt to that, and it came at the sacrifice of defense, I feel.
Now, if you want to talk about a game with some defense, let me direct your attention to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Florida and Michigan. That's defense right there.
Yeah, that'll be a defense-oriented game with a lot of running.
Yeah, Felipe Franks is going to get smashed by that defense. I can't wait.
South Carolina versus Virginia.
In the Belk Bowl.
The Belk Bowl.
I don't like that name, Belk. I don't like that name.
The irony of last year was one of the teams participating in the Belk Bowl had a player shoplifting at Belk.
Now, look. Now, why you want to go ahead and shoplift and you know you got to play? You know you got a game and you want to shoplift.
At the sponsor of your bowl.
So you want to steal from the sponsor of your bowl. I understand you don't want to play in the Belk Bowl, but at least give some effort.
All right, Arkansas State versus Nevada. Kind of more of a mediocrity bowl for me.
I wasn't even going to talk about it. Then we get to the playoff.
No, we already attacked the playoffs.
Yeah, oh yeah, true.
See, Cincinnati versus Virginia Tech. I believe this is two teams that were underperformers.
They were. I mean, Cincinnati started off really strong this season, but it's just they kind of lost their way. Virginia Tech, I mean, that loss to Old Dominion really hurt them this season.
I mean, they started off strong, or at least it looked like they did, but then it turned out Florida State was just kind of bleh. But to say the least, Stanford versus Pittsburgh in the Sun Bowl. I feel like Stanford was a huge letdown.
They were. I mean, this was a team with a lot of expectations coming in with Bryce Love, who was a huge Heisman favorite going into this season at running back. It was just that Stanford just really kind of fell off this season.
And Pittsburgh is a team that did, I want to say, a lot better than people thought.
They made it to the ACC championship game.
Yeah, they got to their very first ACC title game.
Before meeting the buzzsaw known as the Clemson Tigers, led by Trevor Lawrence.
I mean that kind of went without saying. That was more or less expected. But anyway, I digress. Red Box Bowl, Michigan State versus Oregon. Two teams that were also, once again, disappointments.
Oregon was a team that I thought would be contending for the Pac-12. And a loss that really killed them was against the Arizona Wildcats, who had major struggles this season in Kevin Sumlin's first season. And I thought this was going to be a breakout season for Justin Herbert. I thought this was going to be a season to where he was going to show the pro scouts what he was made of, show him, his winning mentality. But it's just Oregon just went flat.
Yeah, and Michigan State never learned how to score points. So,
really good defense, but trashy offense going against a really good offense and. Not so good of a defense.
Interesting matchup. Okay, Missouri versus Oklahoma State. Two teams that are just always so close, but so far away.
Missouri, I gotta say, I was very impressed with their late season push. A big win on the road against Florida in the Swamp was what I felt. I felt that was a game that defined their season. Just how good they are. Drew Lock, who started the season off struggling, he came together later in the season. Oklahoma State, a few big wins over Texas and West Virginia. I feel it's going to be a pretty good game.
Yeah. Oklahoma State, another Big 12 team with no defense, and Missouri's not too far behind, really. Although, like you said, they did beat Florida. So,
and I got to say, they caught Florida sleeping hard. They caught Florida snoozing that day.
Northwestern versus Utah. Two teams that were quite a surprise. Both teams ended up playing for their conference championships, which was not in the, on the schedule.
I got Northwestern winning this one. I got Northwestern in this game.
Depends on what Northwestern team shows up, if you ask me.
If the Northwestern team from the Big Ten title game shows up, Utah got this one. If the Northwestern team from the Michigan game shows up, I got Northwestern winning it. You got to look at Northwestern. Though they lost to Michigan, they were up 17-0, and their defense pretty much suffocated Michigan.
Yeah. North Carolina versus Texas A&M.
North Carolina State, to be exact.
Oh, yeah. Versus Texas A&M. I see Texas A&M running away with this one.
I can see it too. I mean, Texas A&M, they're buying into what Jimbo Fisher has brought to the program, and I feel that they are a team that's progressing. At first, I said Texas A&M is right on schedule. Then I said they're behind schedule, but I feel that they're kind of ahead of things. They got a big win over LSU late in the season, and a win here will build momentum as far as their recruiting, and it'll build momentum going into next season. Kellen Mond at quarterback is coming back next season as well, so So, not much change going to be going on in the offense.
Mississippi State versus Iowa.
Interesting.
So, an overall okay team versus a team with a really good defense and one hell of a running game, but kind of no passing game.
By the way, Iowa's running back coach used to be the running back coach at my alma mater. Just thought I'd put it out there.
So what happens to Nick Fitzgerald?
You're asking what happens to him after this game?
Yeah, I mean, does he go on to the NFL and be a running back or something? Or
I would see him more as a running back. I mean, I wouldn't see him as a wide. I don't say he has wide receiver speed, but I can definitely see him being a running back. I can see him being like another Taysom Hill prototype.
Yeah, I was about to say, because if I had to guess, that the Taysom Hill offense is the future of the NFL.
Almost the dual threat quarterback period is the future of the NFL.
Well, what I was referring to there is, Hill gets pretty much used at almost every position.
Running back, receiver, tight end, wing back, kick returner.
And even quarterback from time to time.
Well, Taysom Hill was a quarterback in college.
Right. But you know what I'm saying.
But I feel if Nick Fitzgerald hones in on his passing game, I feel that he can be a quarterback, but it's going to take a lot of work on his passing game.
Well, he's going to have to go to someone with one hell of a quarterback coach, because
I can't see him lasting as a quarterback in the league. Just a lot of his off-target throws are just...
Yeah. Kentucky versus Penn State. Kentucky was a really big surprise for me this year.
This is a team that almost made the SEC championship game. Like a win against Georgia would have helped them lock up the. I mean, Georgia. Well, Kentucky lost that killing was the Tennessee game, but I felt that Kentucky. I was really hoping for Kentucky to lock up the East, even though they ran to Alabama.
Do you kind of feel like the Georgia game may have killed Kentucky's momentum?
I don't think it did. I know it did, because Kentucky was looking forward to going to Atlanta so bad, and they had their sights set. But I just felt that they wasn't taking it one game at a time, and they were looking too far into the future. And so I feel that when they played Georgia, they didn't really have their eyes on Georgia specifically. They more had their eyes on going to the SEC title game. And when you making a quest for something that big, going to the SEC title game, go against Alabama, or you setting your sights on to go to the 14 playoff, it's kind of like you lose sight of who you're going against in order to get there. You lose sight of who's in your way. And I felt that Kentucky lost sight, especially after the losing against Georgia. They're like, well, we got nothing else to lose. I mean, we're not going to the SEC championship game. And they were just kind of threw some things away, you know?
Mm-hmm. Penn State, they kind of fell short of expectations this year.
Another team that I was looking at to contend for their conference.
I mean,
we can go on all day about this.
Right. Okay. The Fiesta Bowl, LSU versus Central Florida.
LSU's taking the Golden Knight Challenge. Who can give Central Florida their first loss in 2 seasons?
Yeah, and we just learned the other day that LSU's top cornerback won't be playing in the game.
Talking about Greedy Williams?
Yeah, he's going to sit the game out.
Well, from a business standpoint, it was a good decision, because Greedy Williams don't want to get hurt going into the NFL draft. The higher you get picked, the more money you make. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the team that LSU is going against, horrible idea. When you talk about UCF, you're talking about one of the most explosive offenses in the nation.
Yeah.
And this was while they had McKenzie Milton. And we got a first, probably the best glance we can get at UCF without McKenzie Milton. And they did not miss a beat offensively.
No.
This is a powerful offense. And with LSU, I mean, UCF is not a Power 5 school. UCF is not a team that you want to underestimate. We've learned that. You can ask Florida, ask Auburn. Auburn learned the hard way. last year in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah. I think the story of this is obviously going to be LSU's defense versus UCF's offense.
Now, the saving grace for LSU is that UCF don't really have a defense. I mean, they gave up 40 to Temple. They gave up 41 to Memphis. This is in their own conference. So going against a decent offense like LSU got to be able to put the pieces together. And so, I mean, LSU offense, they got to be consistent. They got to put points on the board in order to keep up with UCF. Because if they don't, LSU will get embarrassed out there in Arizona.
Yeah, and I think LSU is looking at this game as kind of potentially a springboard for next year because they're not losing too much talent. They have a monster class coming in, and I think they're pretty much expecting to perform better next year. And, Joe Burrow will have a full year of experience starting for LSU as opposed to one or two games of experience at Ohio State.
So this is a game that's going to prepare LSU to the future. I mean, it would be good for LSU to end the season off, 10-win season and a New Year's Six bowl victory. I mean, I feel that would be the perfect way to cap off, a magical season for LSU. So that is going to further help with recruiting as well.
All right. Granddaddy of them all.
The Rose Bowl.
Washington versus Ohio State.
No question, I got Ohio State in this one. This is Urban Meyer's last game. Ohio State's not going to let him walk off with a loss. That's not going to happen. I feel Ohio State's going to go out there with a lot of explosiveness. I mean, Washington, they kind of, in my opinion, fell a little bit behind expectations, starting out in the season, but they really surged towards the end in order to get a Pac-12 berth. Pretty much the victory in the Apple Cup against Washington State, who, in my book, was the front runner for the Pac-12 title. But Dwayne Haskins has been playing some of the best football I've seen this season.
I get what you're saying. Send Meyer out with a bowl win. But at the same time, I feel like Washington has a significantly better defense.
They do. I mean, Ohio State, I've always been impressed with their defense over the years. I mean, they had guys like Von Bell, Marshawn Lattimore, Eli Apple, Joey Bosa. That's just a few to name. But it's just after losing, Nick Bosa, it seems that the defense took a few steps back, and I feel that could be their kryptonite going into this game.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Ohio State really has not impressed me at all this year. Honestly, I don't know how they've won some of the games they did.
Honestly, I feel Maryland should have won the game, honestly. That was Maryland's game to win. Nebraska should have won.
Yeah. There's at least two other games out there that Ohio State should have lost.
And Ohio State got completely exposed by Purdue. I mean, Purdue came up with a whole blueprint, putting up 49 against a talented Ohio State defense. Though their defense has, performed to lower their expectations, I feel that they are a very talented defense. They're one of the most talented defense in the nation. It's just they have underperformed this season. And not only that, Purdue was able to hold them to only 20 points in the game. And we're talking about Dwayne Haskins, a front runner for the Heisman.
Yeah.
And J.K. Dobbins, who is emerging himself as one of the best running backs in the nation.
Yeah. And finally, the All-State Sugar Bowl.
In New Orleans.
Texas versus Georgia. Now, I want to put the lean towards Georgia. Because,
of course, Georgia, they have a better defense. And, I feel that their offense can be a little more consistent than Texas. Texas, you never know what you're going to get out their offense led by Ellinger. Ellinger, I like him as a quarterback. I just don't like his consistency because you never know what you're going to get out that Texas offense.
The big key to beating Georgia, if you're going to do it, is you can run on them.
That's pretty much it. It's just Georgia's defense is very stout, and I feel that Texas, they're going to put up a fight for early in the part, but I feel Georgia's going to wear them down.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. Is that Georgia will, when it comes to SEC versus Big 12 right now, there is just defensively there's a huge gap.
from SEC to everybody else. I mean, we saw it, when Bama played Louisville earlier this season. We saw when LSU played against Miami. I mean, we've seen it in first games of the season when they like to do those, those conference versus conference matchups, and you could just see the huge gap between SEC and the Big 12, SEC and the ACC, SEC and the Big 10. Like you could see it.
Yeah. I don't think there's really that much more to talk about as far as that game goes. It's just if Texas can come out and run the ball in Georgia, they have a fighting chance. But from the lack of defense they have, I see Georgia taking this one.
I got Georgia as well.
All right, so that's all the bowl games. And that pretty much wraps up this episode of Let's Talk Football.
We actually went overtime.
Yeah, we did. We're almost going on for an hour. All right. I'm your host, John Behrens.
And I'm Joshua Perkins.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Football.
Signing out.
Let's Talk Football.